Unit 7, Evolution and Ecology.
Genomics is the study of genes and their reactions, but there are so many different genes. Bioinformatics is the application of this genetic information and gene sequences into a more accessible form. In class, you did a BLAST lab to use this information to identify many things, like species origin and phylogenetic reconstruction. In this lab, it was clear that some species had diverged and diversified into new species. One method of increasing genetic variation is possible through duplication. When incorrectly duplicated, one gene can be functional and mutated, while the other non-functional one is not used. Evolution, to review, is the process by which different organisms are thought to have developed and diversified from earlier forms through natural selection. Evolution can be measured in many ways, but typically looks at discrete and quantitative characters. Discrete is when each allele creates a distinct phenotype and is typically caused by a single gene, while quantitative is characterized by multiple genes and potentially the environment. There are many types of selection, but three are shown: directional, disruptive, and stabilizing. Directional selection is when the favorable phenotype is that of the upper or lower end. Disruptive is when it is the upper and lower end, and stabilizing is when it is in the middle. Two additional types of selection are sexual selection, which is your mate choice, and balancing selection, which keeps two different alleles that have been shown as beneficial through the process of natural selection. Two causes of evolution include genetic drift and gene flow. Genetic drift is when random changes in allele frequency and it does not help a species match its environment and is common in small populations. Gene flow is when there is an immigration of new species into a population. Both of these things can further increase diversity in a population. A Hardy-Weinberg population is a population that is not changing and is in genetic equilibrium. This means that there are no mutations, random mating, no natural selection, extremely large population, and no gene flow. An equation to evaluate populations at Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium is shown. The biological species concept states that if two groups of individuals are reproductively isolated, they are considered two different species. This means that they can be considered reproductively isolated. Reproductive isolation can be through prezygotic or prozygotic barriers. Prezygotic means that the animals are not able to mate successfully, and postzygotic means that the offspring are not viable or fertile. Examples of these can be shown in the image. Nico Tinbergen was a prominent biologist in discovering why animals act how they do and if the cause is proximate or ultimate. Proximate cause means that it is the immediate cause of an action, and ultimate means it is the history behind why the action occurred. It is also important to note innate and learned behavior of animals. Innate behaviors are instinctive and often inherited, while learned behaviors are variable and taught. One example of conditioning an animal to learn a behavior is with classical conditioning, where stimuli are paired. There is an example of this on the show The Office, where when every time Jim Halpert proceeds to reboot his computer, a noise is made, and he offers his coworker, Dwight Schrute, an Altoid. He continues to reboot his computer, following the noise it makes by giving Dwight an Altoid. One time he does it, Dwight reaches his hand out for an Altoid and Jim asks what he's doing. Dwight was conditioned to associate the sound of the computer with getting an Altoid. Animal behavior also depends on game theory, the idea that others' actions play a role in fitness. They apply their risk and reward concepts to foraging, mating systems, competition, altruism, and cooperation. It is also important to remember the levels of organization and their interactions to understand ecology. The levels of organization in an ecosystem, to review, are biosphere, biome, ecosystem, community, population, and understanding these helps you understand and analyze the impacts they have on one another. Population ecology is the study of populations in relation to their environment. One thing it's good to know about population ecology is that you can measure it with density and distribution, age structure, and size/growth. Density is the number of individuals in area, and dispersion is the pattern of spacing.
One way to see how dispersion affects an ecosystem is through the mark and recapture method.
Demographics is the statistical study of populations and how they change over time. This means looking at birth rates, death rates, immigration, and emigration. When looking at demographics, you can make life tables using cohorts. A life table is shown in this image. Survivorship curves can be used to represent data in life tables. 3 different types of survivorship curves are shown in this image. Different survivorship curves are dependent on how the life cycle and lifespan of the different organisms work. In looking at community interactions, it is good to review the concepts of competition, predation or herbivory, symbiosis, and facilitation. One example of mutually beneficial relationship is an alligator and bird, as shown here. Both species benefit from each other and therefore live that way. Another big concept to understand is that a more diverse community makes the community more stable. This also applies within species. More diverse species are also more stable in their population. In ecosystem ecology, it is important to look at energy flow and chemical cycling through an ecosystem. It is also important to look at production levels and how this energy flows through the system. That's it for the Unit 7 video. Be sure to go back and review your own notes, and good luck on your test.